Oh gosh. Yeah, no, so like you were talking about, Erin, was it feels like that time clock, like everyone else that has had it. It's almost like everyone's got the exact same time and the markers are all the same and similar. Like, okay, day 3, I was fine. Day 6, it started hitting me, and then day, 10, and it was at the worst, and then I got better and it was starting to get better. So it's interesting to me the timestamps with COVID, how it affects the body. But
Yeah, then my damn husband got a runny nose and a sore back, and he's fine.
did you try to infect him?
Not better. I think he infected me, but anyway.
Well, hey, on more positive notes, hey, we're all on the rebound. Frank is back with us to really kick us off. So why don't we launch the Afterglow, guys? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Syya.
And I'm Erin Gregor.
And welcome to the Afterglow Live Recap Podcast. We are the Dallas co-chairs of Global Leaders Organization, and we are also the co-founders of Innovation Media Enterprises, a podcast production and consultation agency. Today, we welcome back our very good friend and compadre, Mr. Frank Gustafson, the chair, not co-chair, chair of Fort Worth. Frank, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate both of you.
Well, thank you for pinch hitting. There's nothing better than like getting a last second cancellation and then knowing that your tried and true good friends are like, I got some time. I'll jump on for you. So Frank, thank you so much at the last minute. We do appreciate your time.
I feel your pain. I do. I really do. I'm here for you.
That was very good, Frank.
Okay, Frank.
That was very good. I thought Bill jumped on the call.
I'll tell you what. Now, seriously, stop. Okay. I was not on that podcast with those people. I was not.
Frank, of all the times you pull on the presidential, impersonation, you don't got the flag background.
Coffee beans.
Always coffee beans. I think Bill Clinton drank coffee too, so that kind of.
Yes, he did. Yes.
Well, it's a question of what did he not eat or drink, right? I mean,
we don't need to go there.
Go on a jog and go to McDonald's. It's like, I think that's like the most classic move ever. So everyone, welcome back. We are talking today. This week's guest was the one and only Brian Shultz. He is the former owner and founder of Studio Movie Grill and is now the founder of Look Cinema. And I got to tell you guys, when I first saw this, I got excited because I love Studio Movie Grill. And for those that don't know, Studio Movie Grill was a great cinema, movie theater
First of
chain.
its kind too, right?
Yeah, that served food, that purposely served high-end quality food. There wasn't a cook in the back. There was a chef in the back. And the seating was designed for comfort eating. And it was designed for basically full table service, watching a movie. And I loved it. Did you guys like Studio Movie Grill?
Oh, love it.
Oh, yeah. Would always go there over a movie. Yeah. Oh, and I tried to go back to a movie theater, normal movie theater once, and I'm like, never again. We're just going for the food.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine like the regular movie theaters were like holding that hot dog and you're like, look, I like hot dogs and I can tell it's bad. Like, it's not even like college quality hot dog. And I thought that was a real game changer. And with Brian Shultz, he admitted, he goes, yeah, I was riding high. I had over 300 million in revenue, 7,000 employees. He had 8 theaters under construction. And then the pandemic hit. He went from 300 million revenue to 0 overnight. I can't begin to imagine the pressure he must have felt knowing that not only is it company's whole premise at stake, but 7,000 lives were affected out of no control of his own.
Yeah, and I want to call out, there was a really interesting, I mean, obviously this is a very sad story that there was nothing he could do, right? And the guy tried to do everything in his power to take care of these employees. And I think this is the sad side of entrepreneurship. We all talk about hustle and bringing and all this amazing stuff, and he he talked about like those layoffs, you know, meant divorce, it meant homelessness, and sometimes even suicide. And that's a heavy weight to carry on your shoulders. And again, he is not to blame on this one at all. COVID happened. He didn't create COVID, like he said, but I mean, it was, I loved his talk, and just, you know, you realize there's other sides to entrepreneurship too, outside of the hustle and, you know, bringing in loads of money every day. Syya, you're on mute.
I think I would have jumped off a bridge. I don't know what I'd have done.
I know. I mean,
Incredible.
like I will say, like, I don't like to owe people anything. I just don't like to. If I owe you $50, I owe you $50. So even like, you know, from an investment standpoint, I've always just been like, I just don't want to owe people money. You know what I mean? That's how, and I'm with you, Frank. Like, I can't imagine losing somebody $100 if they invested in it, let alone knowing lives were taken. Not because of me. It's not my fault, but still we're human. We're going to make it because of me. Right. And Syya, what were you going to say?
Oh, no. Thank you for telling me I'm on mute. So just the idea of knowing that amount of pressure, like I don't, and having to tell everyone. And he said he was huge on over communication, as in he had weekly calls. I think, what do you call them? Town halls. And he invited not only just employees, he invited his vendors, like, and had weekly town halls with his vendors, basically just fielding all the calls and just took it and answered the best he could, because there was no other option.
Yeah. You know what I thought was interesting when he was talking about how he's had this ritual of journaling every day.
Yep.
And he talked about, he went back and looked at those journals, and just at the beginning of that, they were just talking about, man, if we're closed for 2 weeks, oh my God, what is that going to do to the business? What's going to happen? And just being stressed and frustrated about that. And then look what happened. Unbelievable.
Yeah. No, that rung true too. You know, I didn't know what was going to happen over, 2 weeks. And I know there are still theaters. Like there's one we used to go to right around the corner. I don't think they're still open. And I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
I was actually shocked because I wasn't paying attention. Wasn't like, you know, thinking about it, but yeah, the Student Movie Grill in the Colony area, which is a city here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And it was like fairly new. And then it just shut down. And I was like, what's going on? I'm like, that's weird. And then I thought about it. I'm like, ew, they're probably like scaling back. I just didn't realize they just went under altogether. But what I found interesting though was, I love that fact that he kept, you know, in communication.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so all the employees knew the writing on the wall. So he's like, guys, I got to give you what I can give you, and you got to start looking, right? I mean, not much else he could do for them. But what I thought was interesting is he kind of came back with cinema,
mm-hmm.
and a very similar premise. So I was trying to figure out, like, okay, so I thought, like, how ballsy are you? You just lost 300 million, you know, all this whole thing. And then he's coming back and reemerging with a very similar concept. And I'm like, that's ballsy to go back to your investors. And he went back to his investors.
And they invested.
And they invested. Like, talk to me on this, you guys. Like, that is amazing, either amazing networking skills or sales skills, or he had built such an incredible amount of trust and credibility with these investors, as they're like, we lost something here, but maybe we can do something better there.
So to that, I want to say first, I loved the statement he made. There was a statement he made where he said, everybody was saying, I can't wait to go back to normal. And basically it was like, that was like nails on a chalkboard to me. This is an opportunity. We're not going to go back to normal. So how do we innovate and change this? It makes me really wish I would have come up with a solution for traffic, because I kept saying, I can't wait to go back to normal. And now I'm like, crap, I wanted this. But anyway, I thought that was really important. And I think it's the relationships. Again, he didn't pee, for being a nicer term. He didn't just pee away that money. It's not like he was very careless in this. He was shut down. There was nothing he could do, like, you know, unless he went up against the government to try to open back up, which would have been massive money and lawsuits. There was nothing this guy could do. And the fact that he communicated that, you know, it's a very different scenario versus the person who, you know, the woman, I can't think of her name, who's on trial, like complete fraud, right? What's her name?
Elizabeth Holm.
Yes. I mean, that's a different story for her to go and call back. And he even said, like, his vendors came back. I think we saw something that we may never see again in our lifetimes. Please God, hopefully we don't. And it just is something you can't account for. And again, being closed the government's never shut down businesses before and told them they couldn't open. And so again, that's all right. What's going to be different? How, and I'm sure hopefully they're coming up with a solution too. If something were to happen again, I don't know if that's part of the business plan, but I don't look at him as you lost your money. I don't know if I'd invest in movie theaters again, to be honest, but that's obviously there's a business case there that these investors see. Frank, what were you going to say?
So I thought one of the fascinating things about him was, I mean, you think about, having a $300 million business, everything, going, operating on 8 cylinders, everything's just doing fantastic. And then he talked about after things crashed, he went out and asked for help. I mean, I struggle with asking for help with anything, much less having done something that magnanimous and then failing and then going out and being transparent and vulnerable and asking for help. And I thought that kind of blew me away, and how he really relied on the core values of the company.
Yes. And I think he had reminded us of that fact was you need to make sure that you have established values within the organization, top to bottom, that everyone was adhering to, which, guys, is a theme, right? From every single speaker that we have heard so far, is that reliance on ensuring the values of whatever they want to project for the company is throughout the organization, which goes back to his town hall, right? Because he wanted to be transparent, and he made it very clear, I am transparent. What I know, I will share with you. What I don't know, I will share with you, right? And maybe that humility is what maybe built that trust for those investors to say, okay, kind of lost our shorts a little bit here, but I think you've got something to make it back.
Well, and it goes back to, like, and we can talk about this, but he's very into conscious capitalism, that, it's for a greater good type of thing. And he really focused on, in alignment with values, but creating the wins for everyone involved. It's not like he's this CEO sitting at the top saying, I'm going to cut my check for $8 million a year and then make sure my employees are making minimum wage. And, he really focuses on making it a win for everyone involved. And, I'm going to bet those investors probably made some money back along the way. They maybe didn't get the sale, right? But they probably were getting, they did well for a while. So I'm sure that's proven that employees, like I said, employees came back, investors came back, vendors came back, in that real sense where he was focused on, A, being honest, B, being very transparent, which I feel is like another level of honesty, and C, really focused on making it the wins for everyone involved. And I think you can't help but get behind him again.
Well, I Googled some of his stuff after the event yesterday and read some stuff, and he's got this theory called Win 5, and it's about investors, guests, team members, communities, and vendors/partners, and everything that you do, if you keep that in mind, that it's a win for everyone, I think that's a hell of a philosophy, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a saying I say every day is all ships rise with the tide. And if you can build and bring others up with you and along with you, you're going to get much more of a connection and loyalty, right? And if you're going to be in a community where you don't support them, why would they have any interest to spend their dollars that could be anywhere else? There's so much entertainment options out there. But if you create that loyalty, people are going to say, like you said, Erin, I want to go there for the good food. I had a great experience. I'm going there because I feel, better about our entertainment dollars. And the fact they give back. That is very compelling. I don't know why more businesses don't do that. What do you guys think? Is it hard to be a conscious capitalist?
This is a lame excuse. It's an excuse, and I'm going to say this. I think it's hard to be a business owner and an entrepreneur. And many times you're so focused on building the business, adding more things to your plate of focus. And I get it's simple, put some cash towards it, whatever that is. It could be a very simple 10% of our proceeds go to this, whatever. I get that. I don't know. It's just a matter of sometimes you're just so focused on building the business, it's an excuse. I don't even want to keep going with it. It's an excuse.
It feels to me like a long-term play, like a long-term strategy, because ultimately don't your investors have to win ultimately to be successful? Don't your employees have to win ultimately to be successful? Don't your clients, your customers, your vendors, your partners, everybody ultimately has to win? And I think if you look back, I don't know, this is off the cuff, but I think if you look back at the most successful entrepreneurs and the successful businesses out there, you'll find that even though maybe they didn't consciously participate in conscious capitalism, that ultimately that's what happened, because it's a great business strategy ultimately.
And I think it is strategic. We have to admit it's strategic without making it feel like it's a falsehood, right? That it's part of, quote, a strategy. It is strategic, but it doesn't necessarily have to be part of strategy. What you just said, Frank, reminded me of what Jeff Sinelli did with Which was he started making peanut butter sandwiches for the homeless and stuff, because it was a natural progression. It was a natural connection, much like how Brian was talking about how he supported the community, because it makes sense to be involved in the community that you're in, right? And so maybe we have to look at our own businesses, challenge ourselves to say, well, what's a natural progression? So, what is it that we could do and offer that might be something that benefits the community at large? And that's harder. It's hard, right? Like, I'm sorry, but which is an easy connection, right? Build a sandwich because you're a sandwich shop, right? Understand that you're living in this community and, you've got property. I can see why, Studio Movie Girl made the investments they did around the community. It's a little bit harder for other businesses. I think Erin and I, have to sit down, think about like what makes sense. Maybe it's donating our time to schools or something on podcasting. I don't know. We have to, something.
Well, and I think too, it doesn't have to be where, like Tom's shoes is the perfect example, right? I put shoes on people's feet when you buy shoes. I don't think conscious capitalism has to be, I get it. And I think but I think even just understanding that, these are organizations we really stand behind, and this is what some of your proceeds will go to. I don't know if it has to be this is podcast relating. I think it has to be, this is our value relating. These are our values. This is what's really important to us. And this is where your proceeds go and where our time goes. And again, I know there's a difference specifically in conscious capitalism where it's an alignment, but I think too, I don't think you have to beat yourself up as a business owner to make that alignment. Just how can I focus on a good outside of myself and service first? And how does that work? And maybe it's, money to other organizations. I don't know.
Well, if you think about it from a good business perspective, it doesn't, I don't know. And I don't know enough about conscious capitalism. So let me caveat that, right? But I think that if you think about why you're in business, what you're in business to do, I mean, I'm in business to make money. I got bills to pay. I got stuff to do. But by the same token, if I don't bring a 10x or a 20x value to my clients, then they don't hang around. If I don't, I don't have investors, but if I had investors, if I didn't bring a return to my investors, if I wasn't bringing something to the community, I think that ultimately, I don't know that it has to be. How do you say? I don't know. It has to be about feeding the homeless or whatever, right? Or Erin, you've got a heart for animals, a heart for dogs. I don't know that it has to necessarily be about that. It can, but here's the thing: if you bring a business to the marketplace and you win by serving your suppliers, your vendors, your partners, your clients, your employees, everything around you, then guess what? You have more surplus to go do the things that you care about outside of the conscious capitalism sphere, right?
No, I think that it makes absolute sense. Now that you mentioned the doggies, though, I'm all about rescuing the doggies, except I would not allowed to, because I will try to foster and keep them myself. That is by the way, if anyone ever wants to know what my end goal in life is I want to have enough property so I could just make it into a big old doggy sanctuary. That's my goal in life.
You should follow the Asher House on Instagram. I love that guy.
Asher House?
Asher House.
Where's their property at?
Oregon.
Nice.
Anyway, nice. I digress.
So can we talk at all about kind of the some of the things that he talked about in the kind of the after session?
No.
Yeah.
Frank.
Oh no, we're not. Yeah.
No, just kidding. I missed it. Unfortunately, speaking of my doggy, I had to rush him to an emergency vet. So I missed the after place. So I would love to hear what he had to say about it.
So one of the things that I picked out of it that I really loved was he talked about somebody had asked him about his contrarian mindset, and he's like, I don't know that I'd necessarily call it a contrarian mindset as it is just thinking of ways to do things differently to create the win for everyone. And he talked about, having a learner's mindset, and one of the things that was really interesting, and see, I don't know if you caught it when he said this, but he talked about that when he meets interesting people or exceptional people, he keeps track of them, and
yes.
he's in touch with exceptional people. I thought that was really, really cool. He said he could feel people's energy. I thought that was unique and really awesome.
I had to jump off and get on another call. And when he had said that, he goes, I just like to feel the energy. Like the smart Alec in my head was like, should I bring some quartz the next time we meet? But I was not in my normal typical Syya self-informed because I had to jump on another call. But no, I loved the fact that he said that. And I love the journaling. That journaling to me was like one of those eye openers of something that I've always wanted to do, but I don't do, and I don't know why I don't do it. And it irked me that I was like, I have such the opportunity. See, I think Erin journals too, and I'm like, son of a sea cook. Like people like you guys are like, I admire so much because you guys have that discipline. And I feel like going back to Kurt Steinhorst, if you guys remember him, he's massive ADD, and I'm like, damn it, this guy's speaking my language. Like I have ADD. I'm not diagnosed or anything, but I can tell I've definitely got attention challenges. And he was like, look, find the time of day that works for you. You can still do all the things that you want to do, but you just got to find the timing of it to make it work for your personality. And that was another eye opener. But you know what? I still haven't done it because I forgot all about it after
well, you need to clear your calendar for it. I mean, that's really like there was so many times we leave things to chance. We'll get to it when we get to it. And if you don't make the time and clear your calendar for it, it's never going to happen. It just won't. Like it may here and there, but it's just like working out. It's just like it's eating, like you got to make that time to plan and eat. It's everything in life. You have to set it on a calendar. Even if it's 30 minutes a day, you're like at 1:00, no one can book me. No one can do anything. It's my journal time. It's my meditation time, whatever that is. You have to, otherwise you just never happens for me anyway.
And Erin, it's like that, like, as you know me, I am like that totally strikes a chord because especially after the COVID in September month, I call the September the black hole month right now because I just dropped everything. I was so useless. I was trying really hard to focus and it just couldn't. My brain wasn't focusing. And now that I'm back, I think it's almost like that. I had that time, not really to think because I wasn't really thinking, but it was a reflection moment as much as I could. And I'm fired up to like just really get a better handle. I just realized that like how disorganized I am. And I'm like, shoot, you don't think you are. No one wants to think they're disorganized, but when you actually sit back and look, and that's the other thing too. I'm curious with his journaling. Even Michelle made a comment. That's going to be a great book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm curious to see if he does actually go through it and puts his thoughts that he had written down together, or at least if they trigger a memory for him of what he was thinking at that point in time. If that is also a form of self-improvement to better yourself, to look back of like, oh, here's what I was thinking a year ago. And here's what I've accomplished since then. It's another way for people who have that imposter syndrome who think that they haven't accomplished anything, or they don't feel like there's been any movement in their business or in their entrepreneurship life, goal, journey. That's the word I'm looking for. Entrepreneurship journey. Because we know that we have that moment every now and then of like, oh, am I an imposter in a room full of successful people? Like Glow is, right? We're a community of entrepreneurs. I wonder how many of us we're in a room and everyone's successful. I mean, we all talk to each other, but I wonder how many of us percentage wise feels inadequate versus their peer group.
So, you know, what's interesting about that is I was just watching a podcast last night, actually Mike Tyson's and Eminem's podcast. It's old. It's like a year old, but I was watching it and they talked about like, okay, you're never going to get rid of imposter syndrome. A billionaire, I was just thinking this morning, there's a billionaire list that went out and Jerry Jones is on it and they listed the ones in Dallas. I bet you $1 million, I'll bet you $1 billion if I had it. But that Jerry Jones looks at that list and doesn't pat himself on the back and isn't like, I'm awesome. It's, well, shit, pardon my French. What do I need to do to get to Tesla or Elon Musk? What do I need to do to get to Amazon? And Robert Herjavec said the same thing. He's like, I need to make the $1 billion list. Like he has more money than we would want, anyone would ever know what to do with, right? But I got to make that next thing. So you never hit a point. I don't think there's a person in the world who hits a point where they're like, I'm good. I'm perfect. It's always I'm not enough. I got to get more. I'm not enough. I'm sure there's people in the world who do, and God bless them. And I want to be more like them 100%. So it's just really interesting to me that whether you're at $5,000 in your company, 500 million, whatever, I bet you're looking back going, I got to get more. It's not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not Elon Musk status. So who am I to build a business right now?
Hey, I don't want to refute anything that you say, but that what about, more money than we could ever imagine or have any need for. Well, as long as we're speaking stuff into the universe, I can figure out ways to use it.
No, I'm not pushing it away by any means. I mean, I can find some house. I was actually just talking to JJ about this. I went down a rabbit hole the other day and was looking at property in Montana. And I was like, where does Justin Timberlake live? And I looked at his community. Those houses are minimum 18 to 30 million. And like I said to JJ, I'm like, these are vacation homes. Like these aren't even their primary properties and they're 18 to 30. So I bet you $1 million, or I keep saying that, but I bet you if you gave me that kind of money, I could find ways to spend it too. Like if you gave me $1 billion, I'd find ways, but I'd also save some.
You had Justin Timberlake as a neighbor going, what are all these dogs doing here all of a sudden?
Yeah. And then I'm like, can you adopt one? Can you please adopt one? Justin and Jessica, please. Yeah.
Well, Erin, at your success rate, Erin literally adopted out like all the dogs that she ever fostered in our neighborhood. So she's like 100% ratio right now. So
I've hit a big roadblock on that one, but yeah.
But yeah, well. So anyway, what I was going to mention was for those that are not entrepreneurs or thinking about becoming entrepreneurs, I do want to relate what you said with that whole imposter syndrome and not enough. I was comfortable in my corporate tech sales job, right? But I was bored and it wasn't enough. So it was comfortable in the context of I was making great money and I was saving all my money and all that good stuff. And I was living a very comfortable life, but I was unsatisfied. And I understand what you're saying. So for those that are not in the entrepreneur side, but maybe considering it or struggling to figure out why aren't you motivated and why, what's more to life? Sometimes take that leap of faith if you're, financially sound and all that good stuff. But I think entrepreneurship does help feed it, help accomplish that boredom and also wanting more. I think sometimes when you're in corporate America and if you're not trying to go up the management chain, or maybe if you set a type of goal of like, oh, I want to make, X amount of dollars this year. I don't know. It's slightly different challenges and goals, but I feel like entrepreneurship really gives you that more satisfaction, quite frankly, because you've accomplished it on your own. Right. And you're not relying on the company that you're with to get you to where you're going, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm very happy and satisfied that I made that leap. And I think others that I've been talking to might be inclined to make that leap to know your peers are struggling just as much as you would be. So you're in a good company, I guess.
I think it's important to talk about it. And that was my biggest, and I know we're running up on time, but that was my biggest aha moment when I started the Starters Club podcast. I started talking to people and I'm like, wait, you've got that inner voice telling you suck. Wait, you've got that. And I realized everybody has that. Every single person has that. You're not enough. You're not this, you're not that. It's simply the people who choose to say F you to it that do, that's all it is. That's really all it is. And I know it's easier said than done. I get that. But if you're like, I'm the only one who sits there and doubts myself, you're not. You're just like everybody else.
And if you want a good roadmap, read Erin's book.
Thanks, Frank. I wish I had
man.
a
I
copy of
moved it
somewhere.
off. Darn it. I actually have it over there 6 feet away. No, Erin, we pimped you out the last time, so it was really funny.
Hopefully you sold some copies for me.
Yeah. Maybe you made yourself a cup of coffee.
Yes. Thank you.
So we're overtime
Feed my
here,
kids dinner
as always. But I do want to promote you, Frank, because as always, you're awesome. And you are the Fort Worth chair. So talked about Sandler training, but also what your vision for Fort Worth is, sir.
So I'm excited about getting Fort Worth up and running. Looking for a venue right now, looking to get our first events set up. I am just fired up about having a place on the Fort Worth side for entrepreneurs to come together and talk and share and kind of do our thing. And with Sandler Training, I'm passionate about supporting business owners in helping them grow their sales, get things figured out, get their ducks up, get their sales ducks in a row.
And as for those, Fort Worth is a brand new chapter, so it's 0 members right now locally, but we're looking to fix that, obviously. So if you become and sign up the first 50 members, you will be called a founding 50 member of the Fort Worth chapter. And what that includes is VIP access to a lot of the like events, and it's a permanent designation that you're a founding 50 member, and there's a lot of perks to it. So we can talk more if I wasn't out of time, but you know what? If you'd like to learn more about it, I think you can call someone named Frank Gustafson.
Let's connect on LinkedIn.
For sure, right? So I do want to talk about next week's guest. It is Byron Reese. He's a futurist, technologist, author, and all about AI right now. His latest book is about artificial intelligence. He is an entrepreneur, and it'll be very interesting to see how he ties in his vision and his perspectives around technology with entrepreneurship. So if anyone's interested in checking that out, that's on Thursdays. And Erin, what's the final thoughts that we have on Glow?
Yeah, so all of this is part of the Glow Business Acceleration. I don't know, I always get accelerator or acceleration, but Business Excel or something 2.0 series. Every Thursday morning they go live at 10 Central. But Glow is an incredible organization that is full of entrepreneurs, and they offer a huge amount of benefits. If you'd like to become a premium member in Dallas, please contact Syya or myself. Fort Worth, please contact Frank. And then anywhere else around the US, see if you have a chapter and join that, or start one if you don't. So you head over to withglow.com.
Excellent. And everyone, stay safe. As we always say, we'll see you next week. And until then, thank you for joining the Afterglow Live Recap podcast. Cheers.